Going on, guys, and welcome to the RabidMining YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a CPU mining rig build. I guess probably 4 of them. So we're going to be putting together 4 rigs. This is going to be a little bit different than previously because 2 of these rigs at each time is going to be run off a single ATX power supply. So how are we going to do this? The person I bought these from, this is how he ran them, and I've never used it before, but he said they ran great, so I'm going to try it and see if this actually works. So before we do get into building, I kind of want to explain to you how this works because I do have 2 rigs set up on one ATX power supply already. So if we come into the side here, you can see I am utilizing a 24-pin splitter. Now this is not to get confused with the 2 PSU, which you see here, if it focuses. So this is a 2 PSU splitter. So how the 2 PSU splitter works is obviously one end goes into one power supply, the other end into your motherboard, and then just like the paperclip trick to run more GPUs off that power supply, you just have the 2 cables coming in, and that just tells your power supply to turn on. So this is a 2 PSU. Now this is in fact a splitter. As you can see, there's no 2 wires coming out of here. It is the full 24 wires going into both 24 pins coming out of your single ATX power supply. As for the CPU power, now I'm still kind of up in the air on this. Remember, do your own research. Don't do what I do. Sometimes I don't do the smartest things, but hey, you know what? I'm trying this out. This is a PCI Express splitter. So it is running in, you can see right here. This is the power cable. It splits here and it goes one into the CPU cable there and one into the CPU pin, one on each motherboard. Now it's 8-pin and it's PCI Express. It is not recommended to use PCI Express cables because the pin layouts are a little bit different. But because this is coming out of a CPU rail and the pinning in this cable is correct, I'm assuming and hoping that it's allowing the correct pins to be used within here. Again, I have no idea. I'm trying this out and, you know, do at your own risk, but so far it does seem to be working. So we are utilizing just that one single ATX power supply in the back there, powering both of these rigs. As most of you know through following the channel, I do try various ways to be powering my CPU mining rigs to save up as much plugs as possible. Example, here we are running these 5 rigs up here off this server power supply. It's a 1200 watt HP server power supply, and it is in fact running these off Pico switches. Now I also have some of these splitters. So this is a C14 that comes down into 4 C13. So I can utilize 4 ATX power supplies here and only utilize 1 plug going into my PDU. So this saves up a bunch of cables and stuff needed as well. One other thing I would like to point out is anytime I do have to change BIOS settings or something, you do have to put in a GPU because these Ryzen CPUs do not have any type of display out. Hence, I have this montage monstrosity of a GPU. Now this is not made for mining in any way. Anything you see here and how it's hooked up is not for mining. You are definitely melts up, but because we just run this at an idle to get display, it's using like 50 watts, you know, I'm okay with that. So, and this is an old RTX, I believe, like not even RTX, maybe a GTX, whatever, but it's a 670. It's like 12 years old, 2 GB card, has an 8-pin actually and a 6-pin coming out of the top here, which I have split down into another splitter here, which one going into the riser, and then obviously the other one goes into the power supply. And then I got my little plug here to go in here. So this makes everything really fast and simple. I got my keyboard down there. All I gotta do is plug in my keyboard right there. I got the TV to the side here, which is HDMI straight into this GPU. All I gotta do is simply set this GPU down like so. It will just hang out there, no issues whatsoever. I take this and I plug it into any of my drives that I need. That one there, this one up here, or whatever. And then I can just simply reboot and then have my display right here. It's quickly in and out, plug it into the power supply. Once I do my settings, just pull it out again and you're good to go. It takes like 2 minutes to change any type of BIOS settings that I need with this monstrosity I got built here. So a lot of you have questions on what I just showcased on how I change my BIOS settings and, you know, how I power my rig. So I went through all that. Now let's actually get into this and start building some rigs. So first thing we're gonna need here is we're gonna need screws for these motherboards. So here you can see I have my 3D printed stands. These will help them stand nice and upright. And I got these kits here which are really good for any type of motherboard style. So we are going to need the fixed M3 5x7. These have 50 in each. I have about 3 kits of these. I'm probably going to need 2 of them at least. I'm almost out on this one, but I am going to need 4 screws per motherboard here of these little guys right there. Got 4 M2 drives ready to go. Now everything here was already utilized Hive OS, so everything's preloaded with Hive OS. All I simply got to do is run into my Hive OS, make a new rig config file for each of these rigs, and then simply copy them onto these hard drives. I've already done that, so you know we're good to go here. Now I got to get all these stands onto these 4 motherboards before I do anything else. And these ones have been custom made for me. They say RM on them. This is the right side. You can find these on Thingiverse, a little flappier, different version here, but they're for the other way here where your cooler would actually be on the top, and then it can kind of be top heavy. So these are actually designed to have the cooler on the bottom, and that way they're nice, more type of stability and everything going on there. You don't have to worry about being top heavy and flipping over. There we have it. This first motherboard is all set. Stands are on, and some of you, if you do use SSDs, I do have a few rigs that use SSDs and not M2s. There's actually holes in the side here to mount your SSD right on the side of this. So these are very handy for CPU mining rigs. Look at them beauties. So we have these 4 motherboards up on the stands. So the next step I'm going to lay them all down and start inserting the RAM. So I have everything laid out here, and if you are new or if you're used to building rigs all the time or PCs, whatever, if you're ever dealing with a motherboard you're not familiar about, always check your manual so you know where to properly install your RAM. I'm only going with single RAM sticks, and both on the X470s as well as the X570s for MSI gaming motherboards. They are both in A2, which is the second slot away from your CPU itself. I know what you're probably thinking. Why are you only going to use 1 stick of RAM? Now, the majority of the algorithms that are profitable on CPUs, RAM doesn't really matter, so you only need a single stick. Your hash rate is either exactly the same or slightly less that you won't even notice a difference, but you do save 3 to 5 watts per rig, and be having about 23 rigs here. I'm going to be knocking off about 115 watts off my farm just utilizing a single stick. Now here's an easy way if you're not sure which way your RAM goes. One side is longer, has more pins than the other side. You can simply use the face of your RAM and face it out away from the CPU, and it will fit every single time. Now also, one thing I do want to mention, if you're mining something like say Monero, which is XMR, you may benefit from potentially 2 sticks, but I wouldn't recommend overclocking your RAM at all. Now running this with non-XMP profile on, I'm running more efficient if I was on 2 sticks, say for XMR like I'm trying to dictate here, but overclocking it to either 3600, 3200, whatever your RAM is, you will save a higher efficiency by running at no XMP profile at stock 2400 or whatever your RAM may be, and you will save that much power, and you'll have hardly any reduction in terms of hash rate. So overclocking most of your stuff when it comes to your CPU or your RAM, you're just running into inefficiency. So you got to run your CPUs optimal in order to be profitable. All right, let's just get the rest of this RAM all installed here. So we're going to install our CPU soon, but first I recommend checking all these screws here, because when I first did one of my builds, I actually didn't notice it, and I had one that was loose. It didn't cause me any issues, but there's potential for hazard. I'm assuming everything is tight because these were already used in the past, but I'm just going to run through everything right quick just to make sure. Okay, everything looks all good. Let's get to CPU installation. Now once I do get everything installed, I like to give it a little wiggle just to make sure I can feel it within the pins there, and then I hold slight pressure and lock it into place like so. Let's do the rest. And done. Next up, I do have thermal paste application. I just kind of want to point out how these Ryzens work. So there's 2 chips in here, right here and right here. So I like to put a nice line just underneath the Ryzen here, right in about this area here before installing our coolers. Let's begin the assembly line. Oh, got issues guys. I ran out of thermal paste. I gotta grab another one quick. And let's continue. I kind of gotta mix it up a little bit here. Okay, for these 3900X stock coolers, there's a little hidden gem on it here. There's a switch with an L and an H. So I always recommend putting it into the H. That allows it to ramp up the fan higher and keep these things cool. Remember, we're undervolting and everything, so it's not really needed. These stay relatively cool, especially for 24/7 mining, but you know, it's a good option to kind of punch that in there. Can we get a focus there? You can see the L and the H. I now moved it over to the H side. Now, some people have issues installing these coolers. It's quite easy if you do it right here. So there's a little hook here. I recommend the one without the lever. Get that one on first, and then you kind of got to get the ridges inside the ridges here. If you don't, you're going to find out you have a lot of trouble trying to get the latch on the other side. So we're going to see just how well we can actually get this one, because sometimes it's easy, and again, other times it can be a little difficult. So we're just going to push this down, get this one attached here, give it a hold some pressure down, give it some twists, and like so, we're done. Make sure you plug in your fan cable, or you will run into issues like the fan not working, and you'll run into some overheating problems. So that just goes right down in here. Bam, fan installed. Next step in this process is installing our M2 drive. So let's get that rolling here. This one seems to be missing the screws, so I do gotta go to the motherboard box to get myself an M2 screw. There, our hard drives are now installed. All right, guys, so now it's time for the fun part. I got everything hooked up on this rig. We got our monstrosity set up here just so that we can get into the BIOS and have a look. So I got my capture card plugged into here. It's like a 16 foot HDMI cable, so I can get that pretty much anywhere within my whole little room here. Normally it is inside of my server case there, where I run like Yatacoin solo nodes and whatever else I want to solo mine on and stuff. Because honestly, if you want to solo mine something, you should have yourself a server PC and just point to it, because you will have the best latency solo mining to your own nodes. So that's one thing I do when it comes to solo mining. A bunch of stuff, not everything, but a bunch of stuff. But here we are. So now it is time to set up the BIOS in this, as well as the other ones. I'm not going to go through every BIOS here for you guys. I'll just go through this one so you can see the settings that you do plan on changing for CPU mining. Okay guys, here we are inside of the BIOS itself. Now, if you ever hit the clear CMOS button, or it's your fresh build, this is the screen that will pop up. Simply hit F1 to run the setup. This will take us inside the actual BIOS here. So now we are seeing everything that's here, and it looks like everything is currently sitting at default settings. So I'm going to want to push F7. I'm going to want to go to settings here first. We're going to go to advanced. I'm going to scroll down to integrated peripherals. Now, you don't need to always do this on everyone, but depending on the motherboard, you may have to. So VG card detection is currently on auto. I'm just going to put that to ignore. This means when you pull your GPU off, it will ignore it and you will not get an error, and it will continue to boot into Hive OS. Now again, on some of them, auto will work just fine, but some are picky, so it's just recommended to do that off the get-go. Next up is our power management setup. We're going to want to restore after AC power loss. Currently, it looks like it's power off. We're going to want to put that to power on. So what this means is every time you either turn off your PSU or turn it back on, or you get a power outage and the power comes back on, this will reboot your rig again, and your motherboard will fire back up instead of staying off and needing a power switch. So we're going to definitely need those. Those are those two main settings we do first. Now we're going to go into our OCs here and set up our actual CPU. So we're at an all-core now. CPU ratio is auto. I do want to put this to about 3.7, I think is a nice number here. So we're going to go 3.7 here. We're going to scroll down. XMP is disabled. We're going to run this at 2400 megahertz, not 3600. It saves you a decent amount of power here. We're trying to run efficient here and, you know, make some cash. Now you're going to want to go to your CP core voltage. Now with these 3900Xs, I found some new settings I do like. I'm going to go with about 8.5 or whatever it is here. So we're going to go down to no, not 8.5. That's way too low. I mean 9.8. So right about, yeah, just under 1 volt. So I'm going to go with this. I do find that it is also dependent. You know, one might run at 0.95 volts, while others might need 9.7. Others might need 1 volt. I find the majority of mine are good on 9.8. So we're still fairly efficient at, you know, just under 1 volt here. Once that is done, we just hit F10. That is all the settings we do have to do for CPU mining. Confirm all this, hit enter, we're good. It's gonna do it. Now I do like to wait for it to reboot here, and then I keep spamming the delete key just to make sure that our settings have saved. So I go into the BIOS one more time just to confirm everything, and then this rig is set up. Unless you accidentally hit the CMOS reset button or something, then you got to come in and do this everything again because you're stuck on default settings. We can see it's loading. I'm still spamming delete key here. We just saw that flash up. So now we're back in it. So we can see 3.7 and 2400 up top. I'm just going to quickly jump into here just to make sure. So integrated peripherals, we can see it's ignored. So we do know everything is good. So I'm just going to hit the escape here. We did not change anything. Quit without saving. Yes, because everything is good. Hit enter and shut it off and we're good to go. So rig here is all set up. Now I just got to do that to the other 3 rigs and then I can go place them and everything is up and ready to start mining. All right guys, so I do have those 4 rigs all ready to go, but now I have to put them somewhere. So I got a few options here. I may take this OCTOMINER X8 here, which is a mix of AMD and NVIDIA, and throw it underneath this one on that rack if it fits. That's for the future though, because we'll see if I need more room. I think I will, but for now, because I'm not utilizing these 4 GB GPUs, there's one 8 GB in there, but it's still not profitable, at least on my power price. And this Antminer L3 Plus, I'm going to get those out of here, and I should be able to fit about 6 rigs in this spot. So those 4 will fit in here. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of that and get those 4 rigs into this slot here. Okay, we got those out of the way. Now I got these 4 CPUs in here, and I got 2 power supplies, one there and there. And I'm just kind of show you how I got this set up. So here is that 24-pin splitter coming out of the power supply. So this will go to one motherboard and the other motherboard. And then we got the splitter coming out of the CPU cable and one for each motherboard. So essentially 2 motherboards or 2 rigs per power supply. I'll get the power supply in behind them. It should kind of clean it up a little bit and then hopefully everything works. Okay guys, so I got them in there. I turned them on and it looks like they fired up. So let's just have a look inside here. There they are. Both of them down there are on. Looking nice. Go through the farm. So those 2 up there were the 5950Xs. Then I got those 2 going. We got 2 3950Xs, 2 more 3900Xs. Those 4 3900Xs, these 5 3900Xs, the workstation, the server room, and then I still have, I don't know, 3 or 4 more rigs still I got to put together. And then I got more stuff piled into the crypto mining boneyard. All right guys, so thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you maybe learned something, maybe you have a lot of questions about something. Just let me know in the comments below. Also, what do you guys think I should mine on this? Maybe I should try some potential Raptorium solo mining or something. I don't know, give me a hint. What do you guys want me to test out potentially with all these rigs? Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Rabid out.